The resulting embarrassment of such bad advice might cause the embarrassed party to bear a grudge against the one who caused the embarrassment. This grudge could potentially lead to the embarrassed party seeking revenge against the one who gave the bad advice. Grudges and revenge were both against Torah, according to Leviticus 19:18. The Canaanites would cultivate the land with wheat and barley seeds being planted in the same field. The Israelites, however, were to plant one kind of crop in a field purposed for that specific crop. Likewise, they were not to plant grain seeds in a vineyard. This mixing in agriculture not only pertained to crops, but also to animals. When tilling a field, the pagans might yoke an ox and donkey together. The effect, though, would be that the two animals would not pull at the same rate. The Israelites, however, were to yoke teams of the same animal together. These equally yoked animals would allow for effective tilling, as both would pull together at the same rate. Teaming the same kind of animal together was not only an effective method of tilling, but it was humane for the animals. Animal welfare was essential to the ethical farming practices of Israel. If a man transgressed another man's female slave through sexual relations, and she had neither been redeemed nor given her freedom, there was to be an investigation. The transgressor would have to bring a ram as a guilt offering for himself to the entrance of the tabernacle courtyard. The priest would then make atonement for him with a ram, and the transgressor would be forgiven for the sin he committed. After the invasion of the Promised Land, they would be able to plant various kinds of fruit trees. However, they were not to harvest the fruit that grew in the first 3 years. If they harvested fruit in the 4th year, it was only to be used for consecrated purposes. Starting in the 5th year, they could harvest the crop and consume the fruit. Per Leviticus 19:26, the Eternal One forbade His chosen people from being superstitious and practicing divination or soothsaying. While pagan men shaved their beards and the hair on the top of their heads, the men of Israel were not to do that. Leviticus 19:27. The following verse forbid Israel and their descendants from tattooing themselves. Fathers were forbidden from permitting his daughter to become a prostitute. Moreover, per Leviticus 19:31, the Israelites were forbidden from performing the acts of necromantic sorcery and pythonic sorcery. Necromantic sorcery involved a person who claimed to be able to contact the dead and conjure them. Now known as mediumship, this form of witchcraft was not to even be consulted by the faithful. Pythonic sorcery was a practice of divination utilizing serpents. It will not take long for the pious man to understand the infernal spiritual implications of this form of witchcraft. Just as the Israelites were ordered to honor the Sabbath, they were also ordered to honor the elderly. Leviticus 19:15-32. Even though their ancestors came up from Egypt, they were no different from the Philistines, who were from Kephator or Aram, who came from Kerf or Ker. For its sins, Adonai would completely eradicate the kingdom of Samaria, shaking it and dispersing them among all the Gentiles as grains are strained through a sieve. This was done to purify the sinners who thought they would escape judgment. The time would come when the fallen tabernacle of David would be raised up and restored. The land would be bountiful and the fortunes replenished. The cities would be rebuilt and gardens and vineyards planted. Once it was restored, what would be left of the Gentile nations and Edom would be overtaken. Amos 9:15 sums up what the restoration would be like by these words stated by the King of the universe. I will plant them on their own soil, no more to be uprooted from their land, which I gave them. Amos 9:7-15. Then some Pharisees and Torah teachers from Jerusalem came to Yeshua and asked him, "Why is it that your students break the tradition of the elders? They do not do the ceremonial hand washing before they eat." He answered, "Indeed, why do you break the command of Adonai by your tradition? For Adonai said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death. But you say, if anyone says to his father or mother, 'I have promised to give to Adonai what I might have used to help you,' then he is rid of his duty to honor his father and mother. Thus, by your tradition, you make null and void the word of Adonai, you hypocrites. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. Their worship of me is useless because they teach man-made rules as if they were doctrines." Then he called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand this. What makes a person unclean is not what goes into his mouth, rather what comes out of his mouth. That is what makes him unclean." Matthew 15:1-11.